What's going on, everybody? Thank you for coming back to Wisconsin Sports Talk. My name is Ryan Kostrowski. I got a guest star today by a gentleman by the name of Josh Van Boxtel. How you doing today, Josh?
Good. I wouldn't know if I'm a star, but thank you for calling me that.
Not a problem. Hey, it's a newer show. We're still kind of building this thing up, so it's an opportunity to come on here while we're still brand new, just talk over the Milwaukee Bucks. As you were alluding to before we got on here, I used to work in ticket sales for them for a long time. So you've been to, like you said, almost 200 games probably in your lifetime, so it should bring some interesting insight.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Let me get our talking points brought up. Again, this is episode 8, so the show is really new. A lot of you guys watching this probably know me from the full-time job I have doing daily fantasy sports analysis. With a few extra minutes throughout the day, I want to take an opportunity to just kind of build this channel up. It'll take a little while. I know that. The first YouTube channel, we're up to about 10,000 subscribers, but it takes a little time. The whole point of the show, guys, Wisconsin-based sports. Bucks, Brewers, Packers. If I ever get enough people who want to do it, we'll even throw some Badgers in there. I don't watch enough college sports to talk about it myself. But if you want to keep getting more videos on the subject, subscribe to the channel. It's the easiest way to get brand new videos. And for anybody who is kind enough to do it, I always appreciate the thumbs up. A little bit about me. Most of you guys already know this. Professional DFS analyst. I look at sports through a little bit more boring eye than maybe some people do. But Green Bay born and raised, lived a few miles from Lambeau Field. And our, like I said, guest star today, Josh Van Boxtel, lifelong Bucks fan, used to do ticket sales for Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Bucks. You a fan of all the teams, or is it really mostly predicated around the Bucks?
Mostly predicated around Bucks and Brewers. So
Gotcha.
We'll keep it to that. I don't want to make any enemies today.
Gotcha. So you're not a Packers fan, then, it sounds like.
I'm not. I'm a LA Chargers fan. Don't ask me why. Different conversation for a different day.
I have to ask you why. There's got to be a story behind it.
There's a brief story behind it. When I was in 8th grade, everyone in school was a Packer fan, and it was the cool thing to not be a fan of the home team. I had a friend who was a Bills fan, a friend who was a Rams fan, a friend who was a Steelers fan, and I didn't have a favorite team in 8th grade. And I was like, you know what? The Chargers are pretty good. Stan Humphries, they were going to make the Super Bowl that year and get demolished by the 49ers. That's going to be the team I'm going to stick with and ride. And I'm loyal. I stuck with them throughout Ryan Leaf and all of the misery and all of the
Ryan Leaf, that is a joke for another subject. So we talked the other day, and you said you weren't going to be able to watch a lot of last night's game. You said you caught the overtime. And personally, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. While the Kings aren't a great basketball team, they are a very talented team on the come up. A lot of young talent there. They've played a lot of really good teams close lately. They beat the Thunder most recently. And they played the Nuggets and Warriors, the two top teams in the West, out to within 2 points. They had a nice comeback against Milwaukee to make this one close. But from a Bucks perspective, I find wins like this big. To win a close game on the road like this come playoff time for a team that's not riddled with playoff experience, I think these games are pretty much unmeasurable for what they can do for the team's confidence. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that subject.
Yeah, I mean, Sacramento they're hot right now. They want the playoffs bad. Obviously, they're ascending. And what I caught last night, it's just I think they overcame a 17-point deficit to bring the game into overtime.
That's correct.
And just the fight that they have, and I mean, if I'm in Sacramento, I'm actually pretty impressed with what I'm seeing. I'm getting excited about what the future beholds. They're building a nice foundation there, and they were gamed last night for sure.
So you talked about being a Chargers fan, like having some skin in a game at a different team. And I can usually have like a Western Conference team I can root for. I kind of like the Thunder just because I'm a Westbrook fan. But I am becoming a big fan of this Kings team. I like what they're bringing. They haven't been to the playoffs in forever. So currently sitting in that 9 seed right there, they have a lot to fight for. As I did the preview of this game yesterday, I kept bringing that up, that this is not going to be a cakewalk for Milwaukee because this Kings team has all the motivation in the world, and they have some talent on this team. Bogdanovich was a monster down the stretch. Buddy Hield can flat out shoot it. De'Aaron Fox, we knew would have a rough go of it last night trying to get by Bledsoe, and Bledsoe had a huge stop of him to put the game into overtime. But they are a team on the come up. So if we happen to have a Kings fan watching, I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Bogdanovich was clutch down the stretch. If it wasn't for that Willie Cauley-Stein just errant turnover, that might have been a different story at the end of the game.
Absolutely. So I think the big story from the Milwaukee perspective coming out of that game last night is the information came out late. Now, a lot of you guys are probably DFS fans. That's how you got over here. We had talked about Giannis all day long, and in his minutes, he played fine. But it seems like they really handled him with kids' gloves last night. Only played 24 minutes, only played a few seconds in the entire overtime. I don't know about you, but do you think he's maybe a little bit more injured than let on? Because he didn't appear to be injured throughout the game.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's some substance there. Obviously, he sat out the other night, and we're not used to seeing like a load management with him. It was that, or they really wanted to get Mirotic just kind of ingrained. This was probably his biggest showing since the trade, and he was down in the lineup during crunch time. So it could have been a strategy, but I think it's a combination of both. I think they wanted to give Mirotic a little bit more of a look and see what they had. I think this was a perfect game for him to do that, and a game they felt good about coming in and being able to take. And again, I think Giannis is leading on that he's probably a little more dinged up, and they're just being careful with him.
You know, they talked about it last night during the game that at this point of the year, everybody's a little bit banged up. I will say though, for all of us Bucks fans out there, while he played during those 24 minutes, he didn't look injured at all. He didn't seem to be inhibited. He seemed to be passive, but it almost seemed to be like a game plan. Like they said, we're going to keep you out there, but really only exert yourself when needed to be on probably a dozen occasions, well, maybe a dozen's on the high end, a handful of occasions. There was a rebound that I would have normally watched Giannis go up to get, but he kind of let it roll over to Middleton or Bledsoe or Brook Lopez, which made me think that Coach Bud maybe pulled him aside and said, hey, let's run the offense through Bledsoe, through Chris, through Malcolm, through this game. And let's just try to keep you as healthy as we can be, because obviously when you have the best record in the NBA, you have to have championship aspirations.
Yeah, I actually saw a poll local in the Madison area that what would you view success for the Bucks this year? And it was win the first round, Eastern Conference Finals, make the finals, or win the finals. And it was the two with the prominent vote were Eastern Conference Finals or NBA Finals. So I think even the local fan base is starting to see that it would be unacceptable at this point just to do something they haven't done in 18 years, and that's just get out of the first round. I think expectations are that this team should be vying to go to the finals.
I agree with that. I think making the finals is a success. What we see in the Golden State Warriors right now, even though I think they have some issues, and I put out an article last week talking about why I think Milwaukee should be viewed as a threat, still, this Golden State front five is as good as we've ever seen. So getting to the finals with your superstar still being less than 25 years old, I think is a great building block for them. But if they were to match up with Golden State this year, I do give them a real puncher's shot because they match up with Golden State really well.
No doubt. The team that scares me in the East, unfortunately, though, is Toronto. Battle-tested, long defensively. They match up extremely well. So just let's not look at Golden State yet. We got to get through the East. And, I don't want to draw Philadelphia in the second round, and I certainly don't want to see what that matchup. I think it's going to end up becoming Toronto and Milwaukee, and that's got 7 games written all over it.
It does, but my confidence level rises because the Bucks really gave it to him on a couple occasions this year. I know the playoffs will be different, and Kawhi's been there and done that. I think the biggest joke to me is when you hear all the national pundits saying, well, Milwaukee's not proven yet. Well, newsflash, guys, nobody in the East is proven. What has Boston won? What has Philly won? What has Toronto won? None of these teams have ever won anything. It's really anybody's game right now, but I think Milwaukee should be viewed as the favorite. But I tend to agree with you that the matchup with Toronto is the one that scares me the most.
Yeah, I agree with you too. And I listened to a lot of the national pundit. I know Max Kellerman's trying to drive him. Jalen Rose is on him from an ESPN perspective. Stephen A just likes to hate on him. So I hear everything you're saying.
Yeah, everybody's still riding the jock of the Boston Celtics. Newsflash, guys, they're not as talented as these other teams. I know everybody wants to ascend Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to the forefront right away, but every single team in the East, well, not the Pacers, who I think are playing above their heads with no Victor Oladipo, but the 76ers, Raptors, and Bucks, for me, just, pound for pound, have more talent, more proven talent. And I do, leading into a next point, Brogdon, Middleton, Lopez, and Bledsoe are now all, I think, massively underrated from a perspective of like the national media. I don't think people realize how good Malcolm Brogdon is.
Agreed. I don't know if there's a better glue guy in the NBA.
You heard them bring that up the other day. I thought it was the perfect word for him because he does a little bit of everything. He is a great glue guy. I think they mentioned that in the Bulls game. It's a perfect way to describe him because he does a little bit of everything. He hit the clutch 3 last night for the win. He can get to the basket at will. He plays excellent defense. He's a 50-90-10 guy. If you put Brogdon on a different team that wasn't filled with guys like Middleton, Lopez, and a superstar in Giannis, he could be like a 21 8 assist type of guy if he took a lead point guard role.
Yeah, I've heard national media talk about, playoffs and, at crunch time, who's going to get the ball. And they just don't see Giannis as that guy that's going to deliver the shot. Well, you got Brogdon, who last night they proved it. He got the clutch three at the end. And then when it came down for the money free throws, they were looking to get the ball to Brogdon. And I think they're sleeping on just what he will be. I think last night, I think he only missed a couple of shots and they were both threes. Other than that, he was pretty much perfect from the line or perfect from the field. He's going to be that clutch guy. I think he's going to, in the playoffs, ascend and start to get the recognition he deserves.
I think so. And I also don't think people can overlook Chris Money Middleton, who's still at clutch time, give him the ball, 12 seconds to go, down by one, and all you need is a 2-point shot. Chris Middleton creates his own shot, and there's a reason. He is a big shot maker. Chris Money Middleton is not a bad nickname for him. He hits big shots when it matters. So I know, you brought up Stephen A. He's always on there saying, well, Giannis, when it gets tight in playoff time, he's not going to be able to get to his rim. Well, guess what? We saw LeBron James win championships with Kyrie Irving hitting big shots. Everybody wants to, fall in love with Michael Jordan. There was a lot of times where other guys hit big shots. It doesn't only have to be Giannis. And how many games really end on a last shot, like in a 7-game series? 1, maybe 2 at most.
Yeah, exactly. It's that clutch bucket that kind of seals momentum. And you're right. Cash, Money, he's the only guy on the team I think that is the best at getting his own shot. When you're 6'8", he's got that post game kind of mid range that's kind of Glenn Robinson-esque if you're comparing him to a former Buck, and that you can give him the ball and just kind of let him work a post fade, a post spin, a quick pull up. He's got all of that. And, if it comes crunch time and you can't get Brogdon open on a play and you just need someone to get his own shot, the ball's going to Chris.
In other points for Giannis, though, I think his free throw have gotten significantly better as the season has ascended. He's gotten better and better. He also leads the NBA by a large margin on assists to three-point shooters. Now, part of that comes from the fact that the defense collapses on him. He's also a good passer. Also, Milwaukee is loaded with three-point shooting. With the exception of Giannis, there isn't anybody on this team who isn't at least an average three-point shooter. Like Bledsoe's probably just average, and he might be the second weakest link after Giannis.
Yeah, and actually I saw a stat that Giannis's three-point percentage month over month is consistently improved. I think he was actually over the 40% mark in February. And I remember people saying if he gets a jump shot, he could be one of the greatest players ever. Well, newsflash, he's working on it, and it's starting to come. And if you sag off, he's not afraid to pull up. We've seen that. He will pull up if you sag off to keep you honest, and that's all you can ask. Is the threat is there. That's where he's different from like a Ben Simmons, where Ben Simmons literally is afraid to shoot the ball given space. Giannis will still keep you honest, and that threat alone is what's going to make him even more dangerous moving forward in his career.
Well, I got to argue with you on that one because Ben Simmons took a three a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, now he's big time, right?
He is big time, and I think the announcer said it was funny to hear Ben Simmons for three.
Yeah, I think that's his first one ever, so that's pretty crazy. At this pace, if you look at Giannis's three-point percentage as it's progressed throughout the season, he's going to be shooting 80% come June in the finals. So that's a lock, right? 80% Giannis from three?
80% Giannis from three, averaging 40 a game, and the greatest player to ever live by June. Yes.
There is a lot to be excited for, and I do love watching a guy like Eric Bledsoe. The Bled Show is now underrated from a national perspective. For a long time, he might have been a bit overrated when he played for Phoenix. It's like their best player. Now that he's moved to Milwaukee, he had a rough series against Boston in the playoffs last year. I think people forget how good he is. And most importantly, I think people forget how good he is on the defensive end. De'Aaron Fox tried to win the game last night. Didn't even get a shot off. Bledsoe absolutely would not let him go left with that left hand. For those of you who don't know, De'Aaron Fox is a left-handed point guard. Stole the ball from him, knocked it away. Gave Milwaukee an opportunity to get into overtime and win that game. He has been shutting down elite point guards all season long, including really making Steph Curry struggle from the Golden State Warriors. So do not sleep on the Eric Bledsoe defense.
No, not at all. He is long from a wingspan perspective, one of the quickest guys in the league, and he's built. So you put that in with the effort, and I agree with you. He's been slept on since his Phoenix days when he was being called mini LeBron, but he really found his way this year and just continues to ascend. And again, when the ball's not in Giannis's hands, between him and Brogdon, that first step to the rim to get the defense to sag in and to kick out, he's got that. And again, from a defensive perspective, he is probably going to lock down a lot of guys throughout the Eastern Conference. You know, whether he's matched up against Darren Collison for the Pacers, if he's matched up with Kemba Walker for Charlotte, if he's matched up against Kyrie, Kyle Lowry, he's going to have to take on a lot of defensive responsibility throughout the playoffs, and I think he's gamed for it.
Oh yeah, that's where I think his best asset is to Milwaukee. He's so aggressive at getting the steals. Excited about what he can bring to the table. And you already brought him up, but Nikola Mirotic is that guy who adds an extra layer of just dominant three-point shooting. And for a lot of you guys who maybe don't watch as much NBA as maybe we do, Mirotic was money in the playoffs last year for the Pelicans as they swept through the Blazers. Now, they ended up losing to the Warriors, but guess what? Everybody loses to the Warriors. He went 5 of 8 from three-point range, and they kept bringing this up. Him and Brook Lopez shoot deep threes, and why Giannis continues to get better and better and better cannot be overlooked what Brook Lopez and Nikola Mirotic are going to do. You take the bigs away from the basket like that, I mean, Giannis just does what he wants.
I completely agree. I was at a game last year, and it was against the Pelicans, and it was just frustrating to see Prunty because he had John. They basically were running a 4-out, 1 in, and Henson was clogging the paint. And every time Giannis tried to drive, there was help side defense. You look at what Budenholzer is now doing, and you've touched on it completely. The floor is spread wide open. Defenses have to make a choice of whether or not they're going to put a wall in front of Giannis and leave someone like a Lopez or a Mirotic open for 3, or you're going to let Giannis attack the rim and you're going to settle for the 2. And you have to make that decision of are you going to give up 3s or you're going to give up 2s? And that's going to be tough in the playoffs for any team. And it's obviously proven it's going to be tough all season because of their record.
And that's where Stephen A's breakdown of this really disappoints me. And I keep hearing people, well, it's pretty much just the same team from last year. I'm like, no, it's not. You went from John Henson and I'm drawing a blank right now. I can't think of the other centers that we were using, but you brought in Brook Lopez, Ersan Ilyasova, and now Nikola Mirotic. 3 guys at 6'11" or taller who can all shoot the 3 at a very high level. What this does for Giannis, Bledsoe, and Brogdon, who are 3 of the top drivers of the basketball the entire game, cannot be understated. And what Brook Lopez is bringing from a defense perspective, my Lord, that dude's throwing a block party lately.
Yeah, he looks clunky and just unathletic, but he does command the paint. I think we're underestimating his length, and just, again, he's a savvy veteran. So he's got the footwork. He knows the presence there. And I don't think you can understate DJ Wilson too. DJ Wilson's ascension is the reason that Thon Maker's not with the Bucks anymore. And he's more athletic, a little smaller size, but again, a stretch guy. If you want to go small ball, he can hit the 3 if needed. I don't think he's going to get a lot of burn in the playoffs, but he's definitely a part of the run.
This is the deepest team in basketball, in my opinion, because you got guys like Pat Connaughton who are DNPs on a nightly basis, and that's because like George Hill is out right now, so he's played the last couple of games. Like Pat Connaughton can play. Yeah, he's not like a starting 5 type of guy you're going to build around, but what he brings, plays a little defense, can shoot the 3, extremely athletic, and the fact that guys like him are going to be DNPs, but every once in a while, if you watch playoff games, guys like that come off the bench, hit a couple of big 3s, and they win a game for you. That's what Mirotic is to me. Mirotic will single-handedly win 2 or 3 games in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's that guy who'll come in and hit a big bucket, get the crowd quieted down on the road, and just kind of suck the life out of it because he lives for that. On Connaughton's point, he's got to be careful. He's a hustle guy. You want that in the playoffs if you're going to bring him in. But there were a couple times last night that his hustle got the better of him, and it almost cost him a W. He left his feet on the Buddy Hield 3 and on the Bogdanovich 3 that kept the game close. He's got to stay a little bit more disciplined and just kind of contain his energy just a little bit. I know coaching's probably working with him on that, but if he can get that figured out, from a strength and a quickness perspective, you throw in the hustle, he's going to get some runs in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, you got to love this depth. And like George Hill is a guy who I could also see being a bit of an unsung hero, bringing a little bit of that veteran leadership to this team. And you may not see it on the court, but you can see it in the huddle. You can see him helping out other guys because he's been there and done that a little bit more than a lot of this team.
Yeah, I want to throw a question out at you. I actually heard this. I don't know if it's factual or not, but I heard if J.R. Smith gets bought out from the Cavs, that the Bucks have an interest bringing him in also. Obviously,
I've heard that. I don't know what the validity to it is. I specifically don't really have any interest because right now the chemistry is perfect. I just don't think we need him.
Yeah, he's got more negative. I mean, I think he's just a guy I hope that is bring in to kind of be on the bench and just kind of play the Jason Terry role. I don't know if he's equipped for that, but he's got more negative behind him than positive. And like you said, the chemistry is there.
Definitely. All right. So we're going to shift over and talk a little bit about tomorrow night's game. We got Milwaukee headed out to LA to take on the LeBron James-led Lakers. I think for prior to last night, we would have geared this up as Giannis against LeBron. You saw these dudes hanging out a little bit on All-Star Weekend. I think a lot of people have heard the quote, LeBron saying, "I love everything about what you bring to the game," talking about Giannis. I look at this as a potential changing of the guards game, and I did more last night because I just don't know what the Bucks plan with Giannis is right now. Was it just one game? They really wanted to give him another kind of like game off to be a decoy. Is he a full go next time out? I don't have a good answer for you. But if he's a full go and the Bucks can go out and dominate the Lakers, to me, this could be really the sign of the changing of the guards. People are starting to realize that LeBron's getting older and you can only be the best player in the league for over a decade. And then, attrition and age adds up. And Giannis maybe kind of grabbing that torch of being the best player in the league. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I agree with a lot of it. Maybe last night was load management, getting him prepped for this game. Maybe he really wants this. It's on ESPN. I think there's a lot of national attention to that potential changing of the guard. This is a game where both of these guys are going to be really stacked up for it. They're going to be juiced for it. There's a lot of negative connotations going on right now with the Lakers. I know LeBron's going to want to show out and prove that he's still the guy because he's starting to hear those whispers that he's no longer the best player in the league. Giannis obviously wants to go out and put on a show. I worry that this is a trap game for the Bucks. Honestly, I think the Lakers are they're in disarray, but they're still fighting. The Bucks are coming off of an overtime, and it's a quick turnaround. It's a one-day turnaround. They got a light travel behind it. It could be a trap game. Again, I'm worried if Giannis plays low minutes again in this game, you're going to know something's up.
Yeah, I do. That's the part that scares me, because if we had talked about this one just even yesterday, because I wasn't under the impression that the knee was that big of a deal. I mean, I watch almost every minute of Milwaukee, and at no point does Giannis look banged up, which I think is a positive sign for the Bucks. I'm not as worried about it being a trap game, because I was kind of thinking about that before we got on here, only because it is LeBron. And I do think that always brings out the best in the opponents. And it's one of the reasons that you've seen the Lakers struggling. People like to beat them. And the fact that they are in disarray, as you mentioned, I think teams start to salivate when they can go into them, beat an historic franchise with an historic player. So I'm not as worried about it as I would be normally. I'm most worried. I want to see what they let him do. Do they take the kid's gloves back off and let him run with it? Or are they really going to load manage him? Because I understand the long game right there. And as much as I want the 1 seed, I think it's more important to be healthy going into the playoffs, because it's not like they didn't beat Toronto twice in Toronto this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. And a lot of media attention is going to be focused on just the way the Lakers look, how LeBron, they're going to be all over his mannerisms in and out of the huddle, on the court. There's going to be a lot of focus and attention on that. The Bucks have a chance to come in and just drive a nail in the coffin and really send a message. That's what I'm hoping to see. Is all of the negative body language that LeBron could show because the Bucks are up 20 and going into the fourth. So it'll be an interesting storyline, because there's definitely a narrative that could be spun, and I know the media is going to be all over it.
So do you like LeBron? I know a lot of people like him. There are definitely a lot of hate out there in social media. What are your thoughts on LeBron overall? I
respect him. It's hard not to, but overall, where has he gone that hasn't been cancerous? And everywhere he has gone, there's been issues. There's been this talk, whether it's all LeBron or it's a lot of media. I think it's a mix of the two. But he goes somewhere, he fires the coach, he wants to turn over the roster. There's a lot of finger pointing going on. I don't like what LeBron brings. And when he went to the Heat, that signified to me a mark of the NBA and star-studded teams that I did not want to see. I knew it would kill parity. But overall, I think what you're seeing with LeBron now is this is a guy who's made his own bed. He's going to have to lie in it. And I don't know if he's going to come out from this. I don't see big name free agents that are going to want to go be a part of this circus that he's helped create. And he is definitely he's banged up. You can see it with his groin. He's not as dominant as he used to be. And I don't know if he's going to be ready to accept, I don't want to say a lesser role, but he's no longer equal to 2 NBA All-Stars on one team. He needs help, and I don't know if he's going to get it. There is a changing of the guard, and between your Giannis's and your Durant's and where Kyrie might go, there's going to be new blood at the top, and LeBron's going to have to accept that. And I think we're seeing the descension of LeBron's reign.
He's played a ton of minutes over the last decade and a half. I'm a pretty big LeBron fan, and you know what? The things that you brought up, it reminds me a lot of, I know you're not a Packer fan, but it reminds me a lot of what Aaron Rodgers brings to the table, that there's constantly whispers behind it. There's other teammates that maybe don't like him. And sometimes I feel like that's just a byproduct of you being so much better than everybody else around you and you expecting so much from other players. Jermichael Finley was recently on record saying, well, Aaron doesn't trust you until you go out and run the right routes. And they were joking around about that on ESPN's First Take. Like, that's the knock on Aaron Rodgers, that you need to run the right routes in order for him to throw you the ball. That's the thing that you're going to get upset with him about. And I think LeBron brings a lot of that to the table, where he expects a lot out of people. And if they're not going to give it, well, then he wants somebody that will come in and do that.
Yeah, completely agree.
All right, moving along a little bit more about this game. So Milwaukee's got a 2.5 game lead in the East with about 20 games left to go. How important you think it is for them, like internally? How bad do you think they want the 1 seed, which is something they haven't done? Like, I can't even tell you the last time that happened.
I don't know if they're going to look at that. Budenholzer seems like the kind of guy who they're just going to go out and kind of play where they play. I don't know if they're targeting the 1 specific. I shouldn't say that. They want the 1. They're not. I don't think they're going to play matchup ball is what I'm getting at. But you look at what's going on with the 4-5. You don't want to look past the first round, but I think you have to in this case. I'm already worried about the second round. They're going to draw a tough opponent. Yeah, they're going to draw a team that's figuring themselves out in Boston or Philadelphia. I personally want Indiana in that space just because without Oladipo, but they're playing so well right now. They're maintaining that 3, which is basically going to mean that if all plays out, it's going to be a Toronto and Indiana second round, and the Bucks are going to have to draw like a Philadelphia or a Boston. That is not going to be a walkthrough.
No, none of the top 5 teams are a walkthrough. The talent discrepancy in the East after those top 5 teams is real. The first round, whoever we play, is a joke. We're going to win 4-0, 4-1 maybe. But after that, whoever you get in the second round, it's not going to be easy, because all 5 of these teams in the top are pretty good. Even Indy, who doesn't have the same talent level as these other teams, especially with Oladipo out, they're no cakewalk. They play above their heads continuously. They almost gave it to the Bucks prior to the break. That was one of the best wins Milwaukee had all year to make that comeback, to really lock down defensively at the end of the fourth. But as far as how important it is for the 1 seed, I think it means something to them, but I don't think they will sell playoff health in order to get it, I guess is the best way I see it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right, so we've kind of brought up the Lakers already. They sit 3 games out of the playoff race right now. They are the more desperate team. It's really the only cause for pause I have going into tomorrow night's game. Oftentimes the more desperate team is a team that plays harder. Now, we haven't seen Milwaukee really, they had a little bit of a tough spot there earlier in the season, but since then it's been pure dominance. We really haven't seen them take nights off. I just don't know that the Lakers, even on their best night, is capable of beating Milwaukee unless they are just off with their 3-point shooting.
Yeah, they're capable. It's a road game, and I still think they match up well, with LeBron, Ingram, Kuzma, Rondo. Defensively, they match up just fine. So it's going to be a close game. I don't see either team walking away with it. If it was in Milwaukee, I would say the threat of a Bucks rout is there, just given the disarray of the Lakers and on the road. But the Lakers are at home. They're obviously fighting for something. They're going to be hungrier than the Bucks. It's whether or not that shows is really going to be the narrative and kind of the storyline for the game in my eyes.
Well, you've heard Matt and I talk about this on the DFS show. If Milwaukee hits their threes, they're as good as they come. They can run anybody out of the gym. It just depends on how hot they are. I mean, they got Middleton, Lopez, Mirotic. If they're making threes, nobody can hang with them with the exception of the Warriors. But that comes down to a lot of NBA teams. The NBA is so predicated on 3-point shooting these days that it definitely changes some things. So we've kind of discussed the Giannis situation, and I'm hoping that it's really no big deal and this was just a load management game, because they really made a conscious effort. It wasn't just the minutes last night. It was the overall usage. When you watch the Bucks play, they drop it down to Giannis in the post, or the run pick and roll with him, or whatever they want to do on that specific drive. He didn't have the ball in his hand a lot. He just didn't. He didn't take as many shots. He didn't take over the game. It was a lot of Bledsoe, Brogdon, and Middleton. Don't really have a good guess on what happens next game, but I do think it's something I'm going to watch very, very closely.
It'll tell all. If he gets his normal run, he's fine. If he's limited, there's something going on. It's going to be black and white, I think.
Yep. I think the number one thing I can say, just to kind of make Bucks and Milwaukee fans feel better, I watched every minute of the game last night. He never looked injured to me. Like I never saw him hobbling. Like when you watched Marvin Bagley leave that game, dude looked injured. When you watched Giannis play, it just looked like Budenholzer had pulled him aside and said, "Man, we want you as healthy as can be. I'm going to really handle you with kids' gloves today. I'm going to keep you out there as a decoy because we want this win." I got to see tomorrow night. It is, like you said, it's going to be a tell-all to just exactly what's wrong or if it is no big deal.
Exactly. Completely agree.
All right. Last question we'll bring up before we take off so I can do my DFS show and you can get back to work. I know you're obviously a daily fantasy sports player. Is there anybody in this game without really looking at pricing that would draw to you matchup-wise?
Yeah, I think without looking at pricing, I think it's got to be Ingram. He's getting a lot more responsibility as kind of LeBron the wingman. I thought it would be Kuzma, but Kuzma's always priced kind of in the upper echelon. So is Ingram, just due to his eligibility. But from a Lakers standpoint, I think I lean Ingram for just price and output and what he'll provide. From a Bucks standpoint, I think I like Middleton in a bounce back. He didn't play the best last night. It was Bledsoe's game. Brogdon's always a guy you got to plug in because he's never priced usually any more than like 5,500 to 6K. He's always consistent. But I think I lean cash from a Bucks standpoint, Ingram from a Lakers.
All right, and from my perspective, the two guys without seeing pricing, Brook Lopez is just money on a daily basis. That DraftKings doesn't seem to really want to up his price. But since he's been blocking like 3 shots a game, he gets those easy points. For those of you who like the revenge narrative, he's going back to the Lakers. He spent some time there. Might get a little extra motivation out of him. Also, the Lakers don't really have anybody from the center position that overly scares you or anything like that. And Malcolm Brogdon is just as solid as they come on a day in and day out basis.
Completely agree.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for coming on. We can do this again sometime soon. Looking to bring more people on the show. If you've watched this, seemed like fun to sit around and talk about the Bucks or the Brewers, hit me up and let me know. I want it to be more interactive, and I want to bring people on a regular basis, and we'll have you on again soon.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Not a problem, man. Have a great day.
You too.